Welcome to Community Issues, a program designed to help you stay informed about matters affecting your community. This program is a production of this family radio station. Now here's your host for today's edition of Community Issues.
I'm your host, Dr. Susan Antlitz, and our guest, Laura Hay, is back with us. Last week, she began telling us about her work as founder of Health Healers, an animal-assisted therapy program. Laura, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Last week, you told us about a lot of the work that the dogs do as part of the therapy program, but where do the dogs come from, and what does it take? What requirements do they need to meet in order to be therapy dogs?
Well, these are family dogs whose owner believes that their dog has something of value that they'd like to share for the benefit of others. About half of the dogs in my programs are from humane organizations or rescues. I have all breeds, all sizes. Primarily, it takes three things for the dog to be suited for therapy dog work. They have to have good basic obedience skills and manners, things like sit, down, not jumping on people. They must be interested in socialization. And then they also have to be comfortable in unfamiliar settings with unfamiliar people, unfamiliar sensations, and so on. And they have to be able to be well controlled and managed by their handler, their owner.
What's the training process for the dogs like, and how long does that usually take?
Well, the first step is that I get to interview the dogs. I typically screen the dogs to determine their potential for therapy dog work and what preparation or preliminary work they might need to go through in order to pass the certification test. So I look at their ability to follow commands, their general behavior, evaluate for stress signs, and so on. And sometimes the teams, the handler and the dog, need to do some groundwork first. That may include obedience or therapy dog classes or maybe just working on a skill or two together. So the time involved is usually dependent on how ready they are to successfully get through the certification test. And the test itself takes less than an hour, and it looks more closely at obedience, temperament, safety, how the dog reacts to different things in the environment like wheelchairs and walkers. And these tests are actually conducted by certified evaluators from the national organization, Delta Society, that does the certification or registration of therapy dogs. These are expert evaluators after I have done the screening process.
During the training process, after they've met the requirements, what might the dogs be trained to do? Are there specific commands that an ordinary dog wouldn't necessarily know or specific activities that they would need to do?
Well, a lot of the special training that I do, and I do additional on-site training with the dogs even after they have received their certification, the handling is really critical. And I think too often is taken for granted. So we want the team to be a very cohesive team and the handler to be in real good control of the dog and looking at things like positioning, which can make a great difference in getting the dog accessible to the clients or the program participants. Some programs might require that the dog learn how to safely climb up on a bed. For example, we don't want dogs jumping on beds. They have to learn the safe way and the right way to climb up on a bed safely. Another example might be a dog who really doesn't know how to fetch and retrieve a ball, and I can work with the handler to help polish up that skill so it can be used effectively in our therapy sessions or our recreational activities.
What about the volunteers? They're the other half of this team, and I'm sure that they go through a similar process of preparing to work as part of the team.
They do in the Health Healers programs, and I think that's one of the things that makes the Health Healers teams in the program so exceptional, is that even after passing the test, they do have several hours of site-specific training, and that assures that everyone, including the handler and the dog, have all the information and all the skills they need to really provide optimum benefit to the program recipients.
And I guess their training would include learning how to handle the dog, as you were talking earlier. And I know one of my sisters works in agility training with dogs.
Oh.
And so a lot of the off-leash, being able to direct a dog to go to a specific object and climb up on it or go through a tunnel, or I imagine that's kind of similar in terms of positioning the dog and helping the dog to follow those directions when they're needed.
Right. And again, dependent on the setting that we're in, whether it is a recreational activity, a summer camp activity, or a hospital-based program, the skills that the dogs and the handlers need to learn are very specific to the site where they are placed. And they also have to have the right base set of skills. The skills and the temperament that the team possesses is also important in matching them to the proper site and the proper type of activity. Not all dogs are suited for all environments, so that's another real important component.
Right, like you probably wouldn't want to have a really hyper border collie in a quiet hospital setting.
Exactly.
But in a different type of setting where maybe the dog is helping somebody to get some exercise, a more active dog might be more of a help to them.
Right, absolutely. And again, including them in perhaps games or other kinds of projects with a younger population might be appropriate. And then some animals can be very high energy or very low energy in one environment, perhaps in the home, and you bring them into a work setting and they know why they're there and what their purpose is, and their behavior is incredible.
My sister had a dog who was like that with her agility. She thought that he wouldn't be very fast at the agility because of how laid back and relaxed he was at home, but when she took him out there to the course, he was just completely different and really had a lot of drive to go out there and run through the course and get good times on it.
Right. That's so true. That's so true.
I guess that's just like people. You know, we work hard and we come home and we want to relax.
Exactly.
Well, in terms of the therapy programs, what kind of results do you see and what feedback might you hear from the patients or perhaps even the volunteers about their experiences?
Oh, we see great results. These animals have this ability, again, to help people in a healing environment, whether it's emotional healing, physical healing, or what have you. And we see people reach higher, walk further, remember things better, cooperate more with one another. Clients say, I wish I could do this kind of therapy all day. They find the counseling groups more motivating and meaningful when the therapy dogs are involved. And I had one child who used to fight very frequently in school, and after being involved in our program said, I don't even want to fight anymore. And sure enough, a follow-up with the teachers and the counselors verified that he had not had a fight in the 3 months since the program ended. So this type of result is not uncommon in Health Healers programs. My volunteers report that they really have a sense of value because of the guidance and training that's provided. They know that their skill level and the skill level of their dogs has increased tremendously, and they really recognize their own value, and their purpose of their participation is very clear. We have many very special, very moving, and very powerful interactions with clients. It is wonderful to see that. In general, as far as the clients, the organizations that we serve, they have always been very impressed. And I think primarily because they really weren't aware that the therapy dog programming can go so much further and do so much more than what people typically think of.
Yeah, I think they typically think of the dog might come into a nursing home and spend time sitting next to someone who may be feeling depressed in that situation, and it might cheer them up to have some company if they don't get a lot of visitors.
Right.
But the program goes beyond even that.
It goes quite a bit beyond that. So for the people they serve, whether it's students or patients or customers or families, yes, the things that the therapy dogs do help these people accomplish and the relationships that they form are very powerful and very special. And there's also a lot of scientific evidence and support that's really coming out and recognizing the changes that can occur physiologically and emotionally and why these dogs are able to get what they do. This goes far beyond the feel-good piece of it, and that there is now scientific data that is really building in support of these types of programs.
I know there's research that's been done that most people have probably heard of about how a cat or a dog might help a person lower their blood pressure or help them feel more relaxed. And so if we have results in that way, well, why not have, with a therapy dog, more results coming out of that?
Right, yes. And they've even measured hormone changes and other chemical changes in the body that indicate that the feel-good hormones, the serotonin, prolactin, and things like that are increased even with a brief interaction with a therapy dog. And the stress hormones are decreased significantly, again, within a very short time of interacting with these very special animals.
So maybe if there's somebody who's suffering from anxiety or depression, that might actually have a real physiological, chemical effect for them.
Exactly.
And I know we talked a little bit earlier about some of the dogs coming from rescues, and I think that's kind of neat that in some ways it helps to save some dogs' lives as well as they are helping people.
Oh, yes, the potential that these dogs have, and to think that they might not have been able to serve this wonderful purpose, it's just phenomenal.
What about patients who may have a dog of their own? Is there a way that their own dog can be brought in as part of this? Is that a possibility? Do you ever work with the people's own dogs or give them assistance with being able to bring the dog into that environment?
Yes, actually, as the benefits of our connection with our animals is becoming more evident, more and more facilities, even hospitals, are allowing people to have their pets brought in while they are there. So that certainly is an area where the medical systems have changed significantly in their view. The benefits definitely greatly outweigh any other issues.
Did you find back when you were first beginning Health Healers that there was resistance from some of the different settings you might go to, or have people always been fairly open to it?
Well, initially, sometimes there is resistance, but because of the education I have in animal-assisted therapy, that education really focused on the research and the theory behind the human-animal bond and animal-assisted therapy. So it really supports, again, the benefits and causes people to kind of take another look at some of the old ideas and old thoughts.
Laura, for people in our listening audience who think that they might like to be part of receiving animal-assisted therapy, or even for those who might like to become volunteers, what can they do?
For either group, they can get more information on my website. Again, that's www.healthhealers.com. People that may be interested in volunteering can get more information there. If they're interested in becoming part of a therapy dog team, we have an area on the website where they can fill in information about themselves and their dogs to initiate the process. And I would love to help facilities and organizations, shelters, etc., develop these programs so that we can bring the dogs in to have them do their magic. Health Healers can also enhance or upgrade existing programs to bring greater outcomes to the patients or the clients or the students that they serve. We really see a big increase in benefit in the programs that we provide with that special training, the customization, and so on.
Well, Laura, this has been a wonderful conversation. I've enjoyed learning about Health Healers. Thank you very much for being on our program today.
Well, thank you, Susan. I really enjoyed it, too.
I'm Dr. Susan Antlitz, your host for Community Issues, and our guest today has been Laura Hay, the founder of Health Healers. Please join us again next week for another edition of Community Issues.
This has been Community Issues, a program designed to help you stay informed about matters affecting your community. The views expressed on this program are those of the participants and not necessarily those of Family Stations Incorporated. Thanks for listening today, and join us again next week at this same time for another edition of Community Issues.